I chose to file for divorce after discovering about my husband's autism and preference for cat food, which led to dishonesty and marital pressure. I promised a 1-week update, but it has been much longer. I could excuse myself, but I will not. For those who have not read my earlier blog, I asked for help with my husband's food preferences. After communicating with a lot of people on this site, including his mother, I discovered that he had been diagnosed with autism as a child. I received some negative feedback on my first post. Many of the claims I received continue to cause me sorrow. Some individuals simply irritate me, like the one who urged, "Please don't bully him, my goddamn spouse is him. Not a child, sibling, or schoolmate. It serves no use to infantilize him." Let's go on. I was outraged because he had never brought it up with me. We've discussed a number of health-related issues, but his diagnosis has never come up. I'd want to emphasize this. I'm not saying I wouldn't want to marry a man with autism. My partner has been keeping something crucial from me, causing me a great deal of stress that could have been avoided if I had known about his illness. For example, I continued to encourage him to eat new foods, visit loud amusement parks, and attend concerts. These are all very traditional couple things that I wanted us to do together, even though I knew he wasn't really enthusiastic about any of them. If I had known he had autism, I would have been more aware of how these activities affected him negatively. I made an extra effort to mix what he liked and what I liked. Consider a craft fair instead of an amusement park or a smaller local band. Anyway, the backstory is that the update is provided below. Update. The night before our therapy appointment, I spoke with his mother and questioned him about it. To prevent becoming angry again, I made sure to bring it up in a light-hearted manner. At first, he tried to reject me, stating he had no idea what I was talking about. After some time, he acknowledged that he was aware of the illness but had purposely withheld it from me. He stated that I was his perfect partner and that he would not do anything to jeopardize our lovely relationship. I explained how it bothered me that he concealed this from me. I informed him that instead of hiding, I could have helped him. He said that he felt no shame about it. He said that it no longer had an effect on him. He didn't seem to care when I repeated how it affected me. Although I didn't show him the article I wrote, I attempted to explain why his autism continues to have an effect on his life by using some of your recommendations. We were dissatisfied when we went to bed. He claimed that nothing had occurred the next day. He had chicken nuggets for breakfast and we went on with our day. He never said anything, even though I expected him to. Only later, in the marriage counselor's office, did I have the guts to bring it up again. To avoid appearing accusatory, I spoke with the counselor and expressed my concern about the situation. In fact, my hubby chuckled and said he assumed I had moved on by now. He grew enraged with me and departed when I explained that, no, I hadn't. My spouse left to wait in the car, so the counselor's mediation attempts were futile. I stopped the meeting early because I was frightened he might leave without me. It was a peaceful drive home. I did not voice my fear that he was keeping other things from me until we got home. He stated that he did not believe it was important to tell me about autism since he had read online that women do not understand it. That's the weakest excuse I've ever heard, I said. He then said that if I found out, I'd leave him. I stated that he is a liar, which is why I will leave him. It appears that he told every one of our common acquaintances that he had recently been diagnosed with autism, and as a result, I was considering ending our relationship. Many of our friends now avoid talking to me when we meet in public. I'm not sure what else he told them, but I suspect he told someone that I had cheated on him since horrible remarks about me and my claimed sexual habits were surfacing on all of my Instagram photographs from a fake account. I continue to report them, but it looks that new one just surfaces. I'm not sure if getting divorced is the best course of action. I'm even more convinced that this isn't the man I married since I know he's been looking at websites catering to bitter males, including incel. One of his mates is also an incel. Most of the time I am simply bewildered. I've been avoiding him at home and it now feels more like a flatmate situation. Only when it's time for work does he leave his cave, otherwise he stays there till nighttime. Just because I wanted to help, it seemed like everything has gone wrong. Right now I have no idea what to expect, let alone how to go. Edit, I did not realize there were so many more comments. Even though I assume I am too emotionally mature to react, I am making an attempt to at least go through the most of them. The outpouring of support I've gotten has actually astonished me. Thank you. I'll be talking to a lawyer about seeking a divorce. I'm not sure how to approach him about this, but I'm done caring. You're okay. I'm worried that he'll suddenly want to talk when I get home in the evenings. This has left neither of us healthy. It might be beneficial to spend some time apart. For the time being, that is all. I'm already concerned about how quickly this blew up, so I doubt I'll update after this. However, at the end of the month, I'll be moving somewhere. The second tale will be available soon. I'm not sure I can take my wife's incessant conversation much longer. Could this be a reason to go? I'm not sure if I should have uploaded this on ITEU. However, let us get started. My wife refuses to stop talking. I'm not referring to your usual chatty Kathy. She will not, and I mean almost literally. Shut up, she'll start chattering constantly as soon as she realizes I'm present. Not in the same space. As soon as it is safe to assume I can hear her. Until I leave, and sometimes even after, she will not stop talking. I've gone into the bathroom numerous times, turned on the noisy exhaust fan, and then returned to hear her joyfully continuing the conversation she was having before I entered. She also refuses to use the bathroom exhaust fan since it will drown her out. In addition to whatever Homeric epic she's telling me about her friend's cousin's girlfriend's hairdresser, I get to hear all of the loo noises. I'm such a fool before we were married. I drove her from Tampa, Florida to Chicago, Illinois. Without saying more than 10 phrases, she spoke the entire time. All the way. Is there a program on TV that I enjoy? BFFT. That's not an issue. To keep it out of the way, she will gladly turn down the volume, telling me that Olivia Newton-John still has the leather trousers she wore in Greece and can still fit into them as the ultimate way to have sex. Needless to say, we never go to the movies. Too many movie theaters have silenced me. I understand. She was reared in the Bronx by a huge Italian Catholic family. You don't get to talk until you shout loudly and continuously. In contrast, I was reared in a Scandinavian family with 2 children. I don't think we've ever spoken in our house before this day. In fact, I frequently wonder whether it is what drew her to me. I learned to listen to people politely and wait for them to finish before answering. She never seems to finish or take a breath, so I'm paying close attention to what she's saying. However, it is not correct. People of Swedish origin differ in that we do not recognize others with filler words. We are mostly silent while listening to others, with the exception of the Minnesota nah, which is useful in any scenario. There's no need for a aha, yep, or OMG. You simply need to nod your head every 10 minutes or so to demonstrate that you are paying attention. I believe it has a lot to do with living in the freezing north. If you keep your mouth as wide as my wife does, your teeth will break due to the cold. She describes it as being in the presence of a deceased somebody. She keeps pausing to ask, "Are you even listening?" Or claiming you don't listen to me. Or you might ask me, "What did I just say?" I've acquired the technique of recalling and repeating the last 2 to 4 words she says. She will say something like blah blah. She quickly warned him that she would no longer tolerate such rubbish. And I'll engage in that kind of stupidity, as if I knew what kind of garbage it was and who was unwilling to take it. She'll say yeah, as if I've been listening the whole time. I make a lot of jokes about it, but it's actually becoming problematic. He now has a visible stammer as a result of her constant interruptions. Growing up in her family, anyone who stopped talking over them for even a time was considered an intruder. In addition, you disrupted them by speaking loudly. She essentially uses my less staccato speaking habits, which my child apparently inherited, to interrupt and control talks. It got so bad that even when he wasn't being interrupted, he would automatically pause and resume me phrases. Prior to attending one of those parent-teacher conferences, I had no clue it was a stutter. At least now I know why Josh stutters, a teacher said after listening to his wife and turning to face me. As easy as that. This has resulted in her failing at least one job interview. I'm aware of this since I arranged it with a business colleague. He apologized over the phone, but he couldn't tolerate being in the same room with her since she was always chattering. Rarely are we invited to go on a second date with a couple. Every time we go out with others, she dominates the conversation. Who wants more than one of those? You're probably asking, so, have you mentioned this to her? Indeed. Many times, occasionally in jest, at times in a most serious manner. She is the only person I know who can engage in a completely unrelated conversation while crying uncontrollably. Her emotions vary from wrath to tears, and she speaks louder, higher, faster, and with a lot more vulgarity. Her speaking less is the one thing that never happens. I try to ignore it. She is a really loving woman. He adores me wholeheartedly. My children's mother. The day we met was beautiful, even better. We still have a lot of time for ourselves. She will not stop chatting while we are doing it, of course, but I am too focused to notice. However, it has an effect on me. It shows a lack of self-awareness and is selfish. Enthusiastic talks do not happen all the time or everywhere they have a place and time. I must react since I know the solution to the problem. Essentially, the only thing that may conceivably quiet her is if I follow her lead. I'd have to break even the tiniest silence. If she tried to interrupt me, I'd have to speak out and yell if necessary. I would have to learn how to cut off her complaints and emphasize my points using Italian hand gestures. I'm not Italian, however. I'm a waspy, pale person who grew up in what sounded like a middle school cafeteria. After 12 years of torment, I have finally reached my breaking point. I do not believe I can take it much longer. I just don't know how I'll explain to the judge why I'm at his divorce court. My wife had forbidden me from doing so. Doctor, the woman refuses to stop talking. Is this a good reason to break up with her? Editing is necessary. I had no clue this would be so popular on Reddit, which is correct. I anticipated that maybe a few people would just call me a jackass and that would be it. But inbox, rest in peace. I've liked getting to know you. To avoid replying to every message, I'll try to answer some of the typical remarks and questions that I saw coming up regularly. Thank you also for your frequently amusing suggestions. Is this BS? Suggested. But one no. Most of it is correct. However, I admit to exaggerating a little for dramatic comedic effect. The comment about the leather trousers is illustrative rather than straight citation. In any case, not during hot seasons. However, she most certainly said it at some point. Q2. Why didn't you go away in a rage before you married? Was the up's wife attractive? Yes, she is gorgeous, witty, and energetic. I was also a real Nordic calm bear. Regards, Sarah emphasizes the dragon fire. My wife dragged me out of my shell. And, to be really honest with myself, many things don't seem that horrible when you're young and getting banged up all the time. You are alone responsible for this. Damn it, you penis. Third question, did this genuinely cause your child to stutter? A. 3. From a medical viewpoint, I am unable to affirm this with certainty. There was no formal diagnosis of the cause, but I was there when it happened. Despite the fact that I am not a qualified speech therapist, I feel the conclusions I drew were rational based on my observations. However, if only to cleanse my conscience, I would welcome hearing a different perspective from a true specialist. This results in the fourth quarter. Doesn't your child's stutter really come from you? You did nothing to prevent it, after all. Previously, guilty. And it always makes me feel like trash. Just so you know, I brought it up frequently, even arguing with my wife about it and being disrespectful to her when she interrupted my kid. However, I feel that the most of the harm had already occurred by the time I became aware of it. And all I could do was express my wrath rather than make any serious changes. This curiously long article is basically a tirade. This is the only true reason I'm going, and I'm worried that if she is awarded full custody, the situation will worsen or become irreparable. Q5. Is she mentally ill, OCD, insecure, autistic? A 5. Though I've always had a strong craving for attention, I don't believe so. Her numerous siblings were always fighting for their parents' affection and attention, which is how I saw her family dynamic. Q6. Have you attempted therapy? A 6. No, it probably should have. However, I know her so well that even the smallest idea would destroy her. It's interesting that I have difficulty following many of the advice provided by others. And believe me, I've probably pondered every one of them since I think them to be far too severe. Even so, I'm considering seeking a divorce. That's when I noticed the discrepancy.